Hey everybody, welcome to Ultimate Insider, Bear Insiders Podcast. I am Mike Pulaski, former Cal quarterback and radio color analyst for the Bears. And this week it is UW week. You can see I am wearing, if you're on video, you can see I am wearing my old school Cal visor because I used to absolutely love this game. UW, they bring a lot of passion into it. Their fans are great. They're loud, a bit abusive. But they love football, and the Dogs were always a tough team to face when I was there. Fans often tell me about how much they loved our 1991 game in our place. I used to love to play up in Seattle because it was the most combative stadium you would walk into in the Pac-10 during my time. And so this game, this week, always holds a special place for me because that team in 91 went down to the wire last play of the game. They went on to beat, I think, Michigan in the Rose Bowl 35-0. We went on to beat Clemson in the Citrus Bowl 37-13. Pac-10 had, I think, 6 bowl games that year. We won 5 out of 6. Stanford lost to Georgia Tech, the number 2 team in the ACC. Meanwhile, we beat the number 1 team in the ACC in Clemson. But that's beside the point. Anyway, this week, I love UW week. It's just great. It's a great feel. Going up there is awesome. It's combative. And it's time for guys to circle the wagons. And this week it has to happen. Bears have to get their offense together. So here's a preview of the Dogs and what you can expect in this game. Coming into it, you know that this is the number 1 passing offense in the country, period. They are really, really good. I will put them up against anybody in college football right now in terms of throwing the ball. Their numbers say it all. Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback, who is a very accurate passer. When he throws the ball, he throws with precision, he throws with purpose, and he is right on his reads about 80% of the time in terms of, I'm going to throw it into open space, I'm going to find the open guy. He is absolutely right. About 10% of the time, he is throwing to matchups that he likes, guys that are covered, but he's throwing it anyway, because he believes in his receivers. When you have a guy who's that accurate, who is that right all the time, and then who is throwing, when he does throw to covered guys, he's throwing to guys he believes in, giving his guys a chance. You have a quarterback who is playing at a high efficiency level. And right now, Michael Penix Jr. is the most efficient quarterback in America, period. I don't care what you say. He is. You have other draft analysts picking him down the list a little bit in terms of quarterbacks. I think he is a first-round pick for sure, a high first-round pick, top 10 guy, when NFL scouts get all said and done. Now, that said, he's running the air raid system. And so quarterbacks out of the air raid system traditionally have not been really successful right away going into the NFL. Some of them have adapted, Jared Goff being a great example of that. When he got to the NFL, he had to learn the NFL game because it's a lot more detail when you get there. But you can adapt to it if you have the skill set and if you have the patience and the intelligence. And I think Michael Penix has all of that. He runs the air raid system and he runs it to perfection right now. But he is a dude that you have to deal with. He is not a dual threat guy. He will stay in the pocket. Every now and then he'll break the pocket, but he does not want to run the ball. He wants to throw it, period. Had a history of injury before. He got over that last year, finished the season. He is bigger, stronger, and way more confident this year. He can throw the ball out of the gym. He's got every throw in the book, and he's really good at reading. So Bears have to deal with him. The quarterback is the number 1 indicator of success for a football team. I sat with Jim Fossil one time, and you'll hear me talk with Coach Wilcox about this, but he pointed out in the NFL, the number 1 predictor of a team's success is quarterback rating. And I think that holds true in college too. Quarterback is super important to the game, and they have a really good one up at UW. And so it gives them a chance to be in every single game. Plus, they got some dudes around him. When you can trust that you can throw the ball into coverage, you're going to win your one-on-ones. You trust that as a quarterback, you are good. The reason he does that is because he's got dudes at wide receiver. Rome Odunze, number 1. One of his wide receivers. This guy is a monster. 6'3", 215, runs like a gazelle. He can go get it. He'll stretch the coverage. And so you have to have safeties 30, 40, 50 yards downfield to stay deeper than the deepest man. And you get him out in space one-on-one versus any safety, and it's a probably 80-20, 90-10 ball that he's going to win. Now, that said, the balls that he's caught this year, most of them have been unchallenged because he's in space. Their scheme gets him in space. That air raid scheme finds a way to get him the ball in green grass, and he does a nice job of reading green grass and getting there. So a fantastic player who makes outstanding plays, has a lot of attitude about him. The whole receiving corps has a lot of attitude about him for good reason. They're really good. Odunze has 22 catches on the year, 419 yards, and 22 touchdowns. Leading receiver in terms of total yardage and total catches. The number 2 receiver is Jalen McMillan. Number 11, this dude is also a stud. 6+ footer, around 200 pounds, can flat out roll, catches the ball in traffic. He is, if you were to put a percent or a type on a guy, he is their possession guy, but he's not a possession guy. He will go get it. He will beat you deep. He can do it all, but he's the guy that they use in the middle, on the reads, on the overs, those kind of things, where he can play both inside and outside. He's more of an inside guy from the film that I've watched, but he's a really good player, and he finds a way to get open. He makes catches. He makes contested catches. He's one of the guys that they'll throw the one-on-ones to that they just absolutely trust. He is the team leader as a receiver in touchdowns with 3 touchdowns. There's somebody else in them. We'll get to him in a second. But Jalen McMillan is a stud. He has done damage to the Bears in the past. He's a really good football player. You have to watch him. The third guy, Jalen Polk, number 2. I love Jalen Polk's game. Now, he only has 12 catches, but with those 12 catches, he has 300 yards receiving. So he is getting the big chunks, over 23 yards per catch when he catches the football. He is a phenomenal football player. He is the physical guy. I think that Michael Penix, just watching film and the throws that he makes, trusts Jalen Polk in the one-on-ones more than he trusts any of the other guys, because he throws him up against safeties, he throws him into traffic, and he just trusts that Polk's going to go get that ball for him. And 90+% of the time, Jalen Polk goes and gets it. He's out physical, he brings attitude, he brings energy. He is a pretty good player at that receiver spot. In a group of good receivers, he's the physical, tough guy who also, by the way, can flat out run and will go get a ball if you put it up in the air for him. So all 3 of these dudes, I think, will eventually be Sunday players, period. They're all really good. I think they'll be playing in the NFL one day. And so Michael Penix Jr. has the wealth of talent at that wide receiver spot. Makes it incredibly difficult if you want to play bracket coverage, which is a 2-on-1, or find a way to help with the safety over the top and corner underneath. You can only do that in a couple of places at best if you're rushing 4. If you're rushing 3, you can add one more. But even then, football field is big. And because these guys have such tremendous speed, their zones stretch further than the average zones. And so now, even if you're trying to bracket and you're stretching zones and you're running through the top of that safety, you're creating a larger area that people have to cover because of the speed in this Washington receiver corps. And so that creates green grass, that creates open space, which is at the heart of the air raid offense. Running to green grass, getting open in your routes. Now, they run a ton of route concepts, which I love, using receivers to clear for other receivers. There are some option routes. You can see them in their coverage, but mostly they're running concepts in terms of what they do. I love watching this offense run. Again, anytime you have flashy receivers like they do and a great quarterback, it's fun to watch. Last dude needs to be mentioned is Jack Westover. He is a tight end, H-back, sniffer, do everything swing guy for them. Number 37, good football player. He only has 10 catches, but of those 10 catches, 4 of them are for touchdowns. So he is a guy that will get open. He will catch the ball. Penix trusts him, and he catches touchdowns. He's the down and dirty guy down by the goal line as well. Plus, he will stick his nose in there and block somebody and get a pancake given the opportunity. So good football player as well. One more guy, Jimmy Bernard. He's the 4th wide receiver. There's not enough footballs for him. He's got 11 catches going into this game and just over 100 yards, but a good football player as well. So 4 dudes at receiver, a tight end in Westover. They actually have another tight end as well who's pretty good, but they're really good on offense. And then the thing that's surprising when you watch Washington is they don't have a single back that's over 100 yards rushing on the season. Now, there's a bunch of backs that are anywhere between 40 and I think 80 plus yards, but there's no single back over 100 yards. So that will probably change this game. A couple guys are pretty close, but that said, they're not running the ball very much. They're only running the ball enough so that they can get the ball out to the perimeter. They do it with RPOs, meaning Michael Penix Jr. always has the read on the RPO to give it or to throw it. He does an excellent job of reading that for the most part, and it turns to the passing game more often than not because you have guys open in the passing game. I will drop a play in just a second, and I will show you how they use that RPO and what I'm talking about when I'm talking about numbers in the box. If you've listened to my broadcast, I've had a couple people ask me about what do I mean by numbers. I will show you in just a second. I'm also going to, by the way, talk to Coach Wilcox in just a second, so hang on for that. What makes all this work at Washington, all the skill guys, is the fact that they have a fantastic offensive line. The first thing you watch when you put this on, when you see the offensive line in their pass protection, is the fact that they have really mechanically sound kick slide on the outside, and they keep their shoulders square, and they do all the technical things that you teach offensive linemen to do. They look like a first-class Power 5 offensive line, and it shows up on the board. So can't give those guys enough credit. They're pretty awesome up front. They're great at pass protection. They have not had to show a ton of run blocking. They do it. In terms of their scheme, they run a little bit of power. So it's a gap scheme run. Power, you run power when you want to be physical, you want to be tough, you want to move somebody out of a hole, a single player, and you want to block for a gap. Power is, kind of your first go-to in that when you want to set a mindset with running the football. They run inside zone, outside zone, which everybody runs. The air raid, it's kind of the staple that you run both of those. They run a fly sweep, so they'll get you inside with the power. They'll get you inside with the inside zone. They'll run the edge with outside zone. They'll try to get the wide edge with fly sweep and catch you when your numbers are wrong. And then they run a little counter GT. So that is pulling the guard and the tackle, and they are always reading something when they're running that counter GT. Same thing with the inside zone and mostly for the outside zone as well. There's always something that they're reading on those plays. I'll draw it up in just a second. But overall, when you look at this offensive line, when you look at this offense, potent. They can get you a bunch of different ways. They are very good up front. They are great at wide receiver. They are exceptional at quarterback. So the Bears defense has their hands full. Right now, let's take a look at what they do off of their inside zone and the options that they have, which means it's really tricky for a defense. Now, Cal runs very similar schemes in this air raid system, but pay attention to how many options they have to either hand this ball off and run it or to throw it when they get the numbers right. So let's talk about the RPO. Washington, in that air raid scheme, does a really nice job of running an RPO system. Michael Penix here, this is last year's game versus Cal, is going to run an RPO off of the inside zone. Now, this is a Y slip screen or potentially a Y slip screen on the RPO. So inside zone, they're going to block zone with the back. He's going to come this way for the ball. Offensive line is going to block zone, try to get the double teams where they can get them, work the zone front side, and then the quarterback is going to read this player, the end. If the end squeezes, comes down like this, the quarterback is going to replace him with the football. What they have going out here is their tight end coming across, making it look like split zone, and then he is running a slip screen. They'll have the receiver in front block for it. So all this is going on. The quarterback is thinking, I'm going to read this dude, and he tells me whether I hand this ball off or not. See, quarterback takes a snap here. He's reading that end, remember. Looks at the end. Right here, he should have taken the slip screen. You can see he hands this ball off, and right away he knows, oh, I should have handed that off. He's there trying to protect it. But because that end bit and made the play, quarterback right here would have had a matchup, tight end out in the flat with a blocker over man head up. Why do you do this? Well, the quarterback is trying to even up numbers in the box. What's the box? Tackle, two tackle, linebackers deep. So here you can see Cal has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in the box. Because Washington is running the tight end on the slip screen, they only have 5 blockers. So the quarterback is therefore responsible for number 6. That evens out the numbers. If you got 5 on 5, then the quarterback's in good shape. But what happens is the quarterback here hands the ball off, and as a result, because he didn't read that end, they get the tackle for a very short gain. Good defensive play, bad read by the quarterback. You can see that little kick at the end there, acting like a soccer player. He knew that he made the wrong read, and he sees what he had in front of him. So you can see the receiver out here. Let's go through the blocking assignment for him. If the receiver has off coverage out here, so he has nobody on top of him, he's going to block what's called MDM, most dangerous man. Whoever comes into his zone first. It might be on the corner if the corner comes down hard. If his safety fills, he might be blocking that safety. Or if a linebacker runs from inside out, he might be blocking that. You can see with the action in the backfield that Cal's linebacker chases on the zone read. He's going here, so receiver would come down and block him. That's the read. That's the play. It's an RPO, and if your quarterback reads right, it's tough to be wrong because you'll see they'll get the block here, and if the tight end gets that ball in the flat, they probably have 5 or 6 yards at least in this play, maybe more for the first down. The trick is the quarterback has to make that read. Now, one other thing that they could do out of this look, actually they do a couple more things out of this look. They will come back with that same RPO look where they'll have the back on the inside zone, quarterback reads the end, tight end slip screen. So that's one. Then they can do that same look. If teams are now starting to bring pressure downhill to make the tackle and you get overnumbered at the point of attack, what Washington will do next is they'll throw a slant here because as the corner fills down, now he's out of position. Or as this player fills down, now they're out of position to cover that slant. So they'll throw the slant here. They'll continue to run the tight end on the flat and then bring a third receiver across. And so now you literally have a triangle read off of that initial inside zone read here, and it's a real quick hitter for the quarterback. So the whole offensive line can still block inside zone, and the quarterback can still read here for his first read, but now you have a pass route on top of it with the tight end in the flat and somebody coming in for a third. And what that creates is a triangle read for your quarterback, 3-on-2 or 3-on-1, that's quick to get the ball out. These kind of simple but effective reads have made offenses way harder to stop. All right, so you can see that's tough for a defense to figure out. There's just so many options that you have to play absolutely sound. And oftentimes, even when you're playing sound, you're wrong even when you're right. So it makes it tough. I love the system. I love the way it stretches defenses. And it's tough to go. Now let's talk to Coach Wilcox about that Washington offense. Now you go into the meat grinder that is the Pac-12. It is a tough conference this year. A bunch of teams in the top 10, bunch of teams in the top 20, and you're going to face one of the best teams in the country this week, in my opinion, as you watch them, at least offensively. Michael Penix Jr., talk about him being in the Heisman race. 3 guys. This was an interesting stat to me, and I'd love your take on it. They don't have a single 100-yard rusher yet in the season. It's all committee. But they have 3 receivers that are all over 300 yards catching the ball. You know you're going into a potent passing offense, almost 500 yards a game. Talk to me about trying to defend that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what a great test for the defense. If you're if you're a coach or a player on our defense, what an awesome opportunity to test yourself. They're throwing, I think, for 500 a game. They're averaging nearly 50. And honestly, they probably could be averaging a lot more than that. They had 35 at halftime last week. And the talent level, the quarterback, obviously, the wideouts, the tight ends. Nobody talks much about their O-line, but their O-line, he's only, I think he got sacked 5 times last year and once this year.
Yeah.
So they don't really people don't get close to him. So this is a great opportunity. And how do you defend them? Well, there isn't one. If there was a one way, then everybody would be doing it, I'm sure everybody thinks all the defensive coaches out there are idiots and don't know anything, but they've actually done it before, and they're looking at different ways to try to defend these guys. And we'll do the same. But it'll be ultimately, can you put pressure and get the quarterback off his spot? Can you tackle in space? And when the ball's in the air, we got to make plays on the ball. And I think if you're a DB and you want to play at a high level, you want to be recognized as an all conference or maybe a potential NFL player. Well, these are the games. You want to show up against the best. This is it. I mean, so I'm excited for those guys to step up to the challenge they're going to see.
That was my next question, is that offensive line, because they do keep Penix very clean. And when you're clean, it's so much easier to get comfortable in your reads, to hold a ball for timing because you haven't been hit, to throw on time when it's called that way. What are they doing up front? There's obviously some play action. There's a little bit of RPO reads. Talk about what they do up front to keep him clean.
Yeah, I think it's good scheme and good players. I mean, combination. That's what I think. I think they do a good job with their scheme, and then the players are talented. And then you have a quarterback who he operates at a very high level, not just the accuracy, which is elite, but the knowing where to go with the ball and the clock that how to move in the pocket and the clock in his head. I think that's combination of all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 dudes who can run and go get it. Usually a team will have one feature guy, and then they'll have a couple of support guys. They've got 3 guys who are all over 300 yards catching. Rome Odunze, to me, looks like he's the big play guy. He's the big target, 6'3", 215. He can run, he can catch, all of that. But they also have McMillan. They have Polk behind him. They have another receiver. Is it Jimmy?
Let's see. The other one you're talking about is
Jimmy Bernard.
Bernard, yeah.
Yeah, number 4. So you've got 4 dudes out there. And if you want to apply pressure and you want to add pressure, now that means you're going to be soloed up in a couple of different places. How do you make that decision? I know going into the game, you watch film, do all that, but how do you make that decision? When we come after them, when we don't, is it a feel thing in the game? Do you guys keep track of tendencies? What is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. All the above.
Yeah. Again, I kind of go back to Mike. If it was the personality of the coaching staff, it would be like, let's go after them, zero them. Because to truly put pressure on the quarterback, you have to bring one more than they have to block.
Yeah.
That's the only way to guarantee it.
Or you have to win your one-on-ones every time.
You could bring 5 and use and have a post player, 5-man pressure, and they still might have 2 double teams in the pass protection. Yeah. So you truly can't guarantee pressure, because a lot of time pressure means you're getting a one-on-one and somebody's got to win that one-on-one. You're trying to create more one-on-ones in pass rush so you can win one. But other than that, the only way to guarantee is bring one more than they got. And then when you do that, there's other issues. And so I think it's mixing and matching, and it's not showing the same thing every time. It's trying to limit. They take a number of shots down the field. I mean, I think they had against Boise, we think we counted like 10 in one quarter where it was launched. We're talking posts and goes and corners, big ball down the field. So they're going to take some of those shots, and we got to defend them.
Yeah, they are not scared to stretch you vertically for sure. And they use a lot of combination stuff, right? 3 receivers in a route, 4 guys to the boundary. They do a lot of interesting stuff as a coach and as a quarterback that I love watching, kind of figuring out and going, ooh, this is kind of a cool little scheme. So
yeah, when they can protect, all that stuff is a lot more fun because the quarterback has time to end You know, it's like you're playing, you're drawing it on the grease board, and that's how it looks on the field. So they do they've got some good schemes, and to be honest, like there's a lot of coaches with good schemes. It's the ability to the players to be able to do that. So it looks like the grease board.
All right, we'll be back with Coach in just a second. Now let's take a look at Washington's defense. I'll be a little quicker here because it all starts up front. Any defense, no matter who they are, if you don't have a good defensive line, you are in trouble. Washington has a super solid defensive line. And of those guys on the defensive line, the edge guys are spectacular. On one side, you've got Zion Tupuola Fatui. Now, from here on out, he will be ZTF. He's number 4. Comes in at 6'4", almost 260. He is athletic as hell. He is a great edge guy. He's got 2 sacks on the year, 2 tackles for loss. He is a pass rush guy. He can get after the quarterback. He creates you so many problems on the edge. He's one of the best athletes on the field, if not the best athlete on the field anytime he's playing. And so as a result, he's going up against an offensive tackle. You got to try to help with a tight end. Got to try to help chip with the back. You got to do things to mix it up to keep him at home. Screen off him, read him. If you can't block him, you have to read him. And so it creates issues for you in the pass game and, quite honestly, in the run game too. You flip that over to the other side, and you've got Braylon Trice, number 8. He is a guy, if you remember, towards the end of the game last season in Memorial Stadium, gave Cal fits. Came off the edge. We could not block him. He's 6'4", 275. Super athletic for such a big dude. He'll be a stand-up guy oftentimes. Every once in a while, you'll see his hand in the dirt, and so he can be an end. He can be a stand-up guy. But he is a dude who gets after it. They can work him down. He can be their odd package guy when they're in the even and nickel 2-5 look. He's an edge guy. Like, he does the whole thing too. He's a good run stopper. He's a great pass rusher. He can hold the edge against the run, outside zone, fly sweep, those kind of things. So he is a handful to deal with as well. Does not have any sacks this year. I think he has been the guy who is holding down the fort in the run game on that edge. But he will get his share of sacks, and he is a solid football player for them at that opposite edge. So 2 really good edge players, which in this day and age of college football means you have a very good defense. Because now if you have guys that get after the passer who create havoc in the backfield on the offensive side of the ball, your back end, your DBs, can play free. They can play loose. And that's one thing that's been a characteristic hallmark for Washington over the last decade, is that their back end, their secondary, plays free. They are like disciplined gamblers. They stay home for a certain period of time that makes the quarterback get through his reads, and then they run and they gamble and they take chances. And it makes it super tough as a QB if you don't get the timing just right, or if you don't see it coming, that they start to get into your pass plays. They start to get into your mind, into your head for real, and make you hesitant to pull the trigger. That defensive line and that secondary is trying to make you hold the ball for just a beat longer so that those edge guys can get home. And these guys are physical, they're confident, and they play smart, and they play well at their position. Like I said, disciplined gamblers, I think, is the best way to describe it. Number 1, Jabbar Muhammad. He's a transfer into Washington. He is a lockdown type corner. He is a guy that they really love as a transfer. They put him on an island oftentimes where he's the man-to-man guy in the match coverage, and they say, shut it down, it's all you. And he's done a good job of it so far this year. He's got 1 interception. He's got 8 total tackles, all of them solo, by the way. And he has a sack. So we'll talk about it just a second, but he's a corner and he has a sack. The other side, Elijah Jackson, another corner. He's got a quarterback hurry. He comes on the corner blitz. He's a physical guy. And so not only are they gambling and not only are they smart, but now they're also exotic on defense. So you can't pin them down in exactly what they're doing. They'll bring that corner blitz to the boundary, and they'll come at you from every different angle. As a quarterback, you don't see it coming. These guys have sacks. They have hurries. They're in the pass rush game as well as the pass coverage game. And so they just keep offenses guessing, and you have to be really good about calling plays that you can run against different looks. And as a quarterback, if those corners are coming, you have to be sure to get the ball out on time and preserve yourself and not take huge hits. At the strong safety, Dominic Hampton, he is the team leader in tackler, 19 tackles. He has a quarterback hurry. He's the overhang player. He's the guy who will insert versus the run, be the extra box player down low. So they'll have the 4-3 with two overhangs. One of them is listed as a linebacker, but really a nickel Sam, so a safety / linebacker type. Strong safety is the other overhang guy who will insert on run to try to get that eighth man into the box for you. Hampton is that guy. Like I said, leads the team in tacklers, so he's at the point of the spear oftentimes on defense when it comes to stopping the run. A very good, very physical football player, great size, 6'3", 220. And you see him, he looks like a linebacker out there on the outside. Cameron Fabiculin is the free safety. He's got 2 interceptions, leads the team in interceptions. They play that guy high. He can sit back and play the ball, gamble a little bit because he's got space to do it. He's got vision in that high spot. And so he's a dude who is a ball hawk. He will go get it. He is good in coverage. He is a gambler as well back there, and he will come downhill and go get that ball. At linebacker, you have number 5, Edifon Ulufosio. He has 18 tackles, so number 2 on the team in terms of tackles. He will plug on the run. He has the speed to run side to side. He's got a little bit of the whole package. And again, their big guys up front are also good. The guys that are meant to block the blockers, D tackles, nose tackles down low, are also good up front. And their linebackers can run and hit. And so when you have that on defense, great edge guys, a good secondary, and linebackers that can run and hit, it is a test. That's why they're number 8 in the country right now. Great defense, outstanding offense, and they're a team to be reckoned with. Here's a look at what they do and what those edge guys can do on that defensive side of the ball, and they'll give you an idea of what the Bears will be facing on offense. We talked about the effect of having great edge guys and what a problem that is for the quarterback. This is Cal versus UW last year again, and you can see the Bears are in a bunch set to the top, receivers ready to rock and roll, single receiver down here to the boundary. Washington is running a even front, although it's 2 down guys, 2 edge guys, and then 3 linebackers in behind. This is really a nickel Sam type, so crossover DB hybrid, DB linebacker. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 true defensive backs. This would make 5, or your nickel here. So a nickel 4-2 with coverage, or a nickel 4-3 if you consider that backer in the box. Different fronts have different names to denote them. Not going deep into that here. However, you have, in terms of receivers, in terms of coverage, you're going to get what looks like a cover 6 or cover 8, depending on how you denote it. But this is a cover 2 flat player. He is a cover 2 hash player. He is playing low and waiting for anything out of this bunch, you can see his vision, to come to him. This guy is going to play a deep quarter. So it's cover 2 up here, and it's quarters coverage down here. All that said, that equals cover 6. Cover 2 plus 4 equals 6. So what you would call cover 6, some teams, because it's over strength, would call it cover 8. Same coverage, quarter, half. In this case, I'm just going to call it 6 because it's easiest. Now, edge guys change everything. There is a responsibility on the top edge player for contain. So he's going to get width and get upfield. There's a responsibility for contain here as well. But this is 3rd and long, and so it is a passing down for the Bears. What does that mean? It means that these 2 guys can pin their ears back. I told you Braylon Trice, 6'4", 275, number 8 here, but moves like an outside backer. He is one of the best athletes on the field while he is playing, and he is going to rush the passer off the edge here. And watch how quick he is up the field, and watch how he uses his hands to get the tackle's hands off of him. Boom. Gets his hands off, fights, and gets the sack inside. This is where having great edge guys can change the game. If your quarterback has time to throw, he has the opportunity to hit, freeze it right there, one receiver coming open in the hole here, and if he can hitch up, he can also drop the ball off underneath. You're going to get a third dig from the backside that is also open if your quarterback can get through his progression. However, because they are so good off the edge, Jack Plummer never has a chance to get through that progression because Trice gets engaged, gets the hands off him, and wins. That is super tough duty if you're a quarterback. So I told you that their secondary is disciplined gamblers. They like to give you different looks. They like to sneak coverages in on you. They will play bracket behind, and bracket is anytime you have two guys covering one. So in this case, you've got dime package in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defensive backs. Okay, so that is your dime package. Nickel would be 5 defensive backs. They are in there 2-5, so nickel stand-up guys, 3 guys there. Those are all linebackers, considered linebackers, but really edge rushers, ZTF and Trice on the outside. So edge rusher, middle linebacker, who's a match for the tailback in this case. They're trying to give a cover 2 or cover 6 look here. I've talked about 6 before. Roll up, cover 2, deep, half, deep, quarter, flat player. So that would be cover 6 or 8, again, depending on strength. But what they end up doing is they end up bracketing the slot. So you're going to see the nickel inside players try to reroute both slots as they get off the ball. Then safeties are going to jump down and play slot over the top so that there's no quick inside pass to make up for what looks like pressure from that defensive front. They're trying to take away the hots. What does that do? Well, it exposes one-on-one coverage on the outside. Right here. That corner is in press, and he's going to be one-on-one because he's not going to get help from the safeties who are coming downhill to bracket along with the nickel guys. Now, you also have one-on-one here, but it's not as sexy because, A, it's on the opposite side of the field, so it's a long throw to the field, and B, he's in off coverage, so he's off about 8 yards, and that makes you could throw hitches, you could throw other stuff underneath him, but any out-breaking route, any corner route, anything high over the top becomes a much longer throw. So if I'm a quarterback, I want to work right there. There's my mismatch if I read it. You see the Bears here run a go route to the top. So perfect timing for this call. Safety tries to sneak and then come down inside and bracket. And the Bears catch them in that press single coverage for a quick throw. So Plummer able to get this ball off before pressure gets back to him as well. Now they are also up front playing games with that defensive line, running what you call stunts. These are ET stunts. The end is going to come down inside and force, almost grab and push, the tackle into the guard. So he's going to pick there. This end is going to do the same thing here. Try to take the tackle with him into the guard. Then your tackles are going to loop. When they talk about stunts, they say the guy that goes first in the stunt. So an ET would be an end tackle stunt with the end going first, pushing that down, and then the tackle coming over the top. So ET stunt, trying to wrap it here with a little bit of trick coverage behind it. Safety coming down to help from a cover 2 look. Bracketing over the top leaves your single player soloed up, and Jack Plummer finds it for an outstanding play for the Bears, 48 yards and a touchdown. If you can find those mismatches and take advantage of them, it gives you a chance on offense. It also makes them play way, way more honest. With that, right now, let's talk to Coach Wilcox about that UW defense. Their defense, they have always been a team that covered well, right? They get DBs up there, they cover well, but they've also had edge guys. And they've got an edge guy in Zion this week, number 4, who seems pretty good out there. How do you work with him? We talked about the edge versus Idaho. How do you work against him? Do you double him? Do you read him? Either you block him or read him, right?
Yep. I think both their edge guys are good. So we're going to have to we have to run the ball some, like, you're not just going to drop back on these guys the whole game, but being able to run the ball, both ZTF and number 8. I mean, their edge players are really good. They play wide. It's kind of that style of defense. They play some quarters with really aggressive safeties at times, and they'll get into their single high 3 and man. But you got to run the ball efficiently. And you got to give those edge guys different looks. If the tight end's on or off the ball, are we running to 2 or away from them? What does the play action look like so we can get another body on the edge with whether a tight end or a puller or a back? I think all those things are important, and not just, okay, when we drop back, the tackle's got to block them every time. I think it's lending some help when needed.
And when you do get man, how do you feel like you match up at the receiver spot?
Well, it's a little bit what I was talking on defense. Most times, the best thing you can do as a coach is get a one-on-one. And then at that point, we got to throw it and catch it, and that's technique, it's talent, it's all those things. And we're going to have to win some of those. We're going to have to get the ball down the field more than we have. So we're going to have to run it, and then we're going to have to get the ball down the field and make a play with a wideout during the game to be successful on offense against these guys. And so we're challenging the guys because, you'd love to scheme, like, Mike, you'd love to scheme everybody to have them bust the coverage.
Right. That'd be great.
Not a lot of busted coverages. You either got to find the window in the zone and be accurate, or the guy in one-on-one's got to go beat somebody.
So that's it. That's my breakdown of the Dogs. It is going to be an interesting game. The Bears have to circle the wagons, go up into hostile enemy territory, and it is hostile up there, which is why I love it. And the weather's going to be fine. Rain's supposed to hold off, so it shouldn't be wet. It should be a good day to play in Seattle. Perfect fall football weather. It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful place to play. But the Bears are there on a business trip, and so we'll see if they can get it together. There should be zero issue about whether or not they are emotionally up for this game. You are playing a fantastic football team, so if you are not emotionally up for this game, you should take up another sport like, I don't know, lawn darts, because you got to be up for a game like this. And if you can't emotionally get up for a game like this, then you're in trouble. Anyway, for today, and looking forward to calling the game this weekend. Remember, you can always catch me on KGO 810. Game starts at 7:30. Our pregame will start at 6:30. Me and my partner Justin Allegri there, and we'll bring you everything we know about this game from up in Seattle. Last time I was in this booth, I think either last time or 2 times ago, is when we had that huge rain delay and went till 2:30 in the morning. It was horrible. Longest broadcast of my life. But anyway, that said, looking forward to a good game this weekend. I appreciate you guys watching. As always, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel if you want to break down on football, if you want to understand the game better. Go to Elite Athletes TV on YouTube, and you'll see a bunch of Cal footage up there. I break down the game, show you the concepts that I'm talking about. There's going to be a concept this week about that tight end screen to the flat that you work off the inside zone. So go ahead and get there. You can see that, learn about the game, learn your X's and O's, and I appreciate you guys watching. I will catch you next time here at Ultimate Insider for Bear Insider. I'm Mike Pulaski. As always, go Bears.